I see that most people have been allowed already, and we don't have that many people in the waiting room. So let's start then. Welcome, everyone. This is the Fair Impact Public Community event. It will be an event that is open. It will be recorded and available on our website after the session. My name is Vaso Kalaidzi. I'm the day-to-day project lead of the project. And today we will have 2.5 hours to discuss about the project, different communities, perspectives, support actions, and the work that we do around the FAIR principles. And without further ado, I would like to give the floor to our project coordinator, Ingrid Dillo.
Thank you very much, Vaso. Yeah, on behalf of the whole team, I would also like to welcome you to this community event of the FAIR Impact Project. And it's wonderful to see so many of you here this afternoon. FAIR Impact is a 3-year project, and we are currently about halfway. So to us, it seemed like a good moment in time to take stock and to show you and discuss with you the first results of our work. At this point in time, the project produced some 14 formal deliverables and milestones. And if you go to our FAIR Impact community on Zenodo, you can already find there over 60 different project results. So we do have something to present to you. Before we dive into today's program, I would like to say a few words about the project and what we aim to achieve with it. FAIR Impact, as you can see on the slide, supports the implementation of FAIR enabling practices, policies, tools, and technical specifications. And we try to do that in different ways. First of all, we do that across scientific communities, which means that we try to transfer and adapt solutions from one domain to other domains. We also try to look further than only data, but have an eye on different research outputs. So we also incorporate work on research software and semantic artifacts. And finally, we aim to have an impact on different levels. So the European level, as well as the national level, but also more locally on institutional levels. So we identify FAIR solutions to guide repository managers, research performing organizations, and policymakers. They are our main stakeholders. And in doing this, we focus specifically on persistent identifiers, on metadata and ontologies, on metrics and certification, and on interoperability overall. In the project, we also work with a couple of domain-specific partners on a number of in-depth use cases. We have them in the social sciences and humanities, in the photon and Newton sciences, in the life sciences, and finally in the agri-food and environmental sciences. The aim of FAIR Impact is to realize a wide uptake of FAIR solutions by our key stakeholders. And again, these are the national and European research performing organizations, service providers, and repositories. And to that end, to create that wider uptake, we also provide a support program with 2 different routes in it. The first route provides in-kind support for organizations to self-assess their current capabilities and also to develop FAIR implementation action plans. The second route combines both in-kind support as well as financial support for organizations that really aim to implement specific tools or methods or approaches or technical specifications. And the financial support in total adds up to 500,000 euro that we have available in the project over the course of these 3 years. I will stop here because I think that most of the elements I touched upon will be mentioned in greater detail later in the program in different shapes and forms. But I do want to say that the program was prepared by the work package leads together with the project coordination team. And I want to take the opportunity to thank them for their hard work in a relatively short time span. And while I'm at it, I would also very much like to thank our FAIR champions. our advisory committee members, as well as our successful support applicants for their contributions to the program today, because they really make the difference. So what are we going to do today? What is the menu that we will be serving you this afternoon? Can I get the next slide? Thank you. Well, you can see here that we will start with a little warming up to make sure that you're all awake. And after that, we have two very interesting panel discussions with people from outside of the project. First, we start with a discussion with our FAIR champions, and then we move over to a discussion with our support applicants. And we finished the first part of this event with a couple of breakout pitches to make it easier for you to decide where you want to go after the coffee break, and which topic is most relevant and interesting for you. After those breakout sessions, we come back again in a plenary session to hear a little bit about the highlights from the breakouts, and then we will close the meeting. So that is all that I wanted to say to kick this off from my side, and I'd like to hand over now to our chair of this afternoon, my colleague Vasso.
Thank you very much. Then we go to our warming up exercise, and I would like to give the floor to my colleague Daniel Turner, who will walk us through the Mentimeter session.
All right, yeah, so thank you everyone for joining us today. So we're just going to have a nice little interactive warm-up just to check on things. So we have 3 ways to join our quick survey on Mentimeter. You can either use the link, you can go to menti.com and use that code, or you can scan using your phone that QR code that appears on the screen there. So I'll give everybody time to open that up, and hopefully we can get everyone in. So I promise it's going to be very quick, just 4 quick questions, 2 that are a bit quirky and 2 that are a bit more serious. So if everybody could join, that would be great.
If we can mention the code number out loud.
Oh, yeah, sure. So the code number out loud is 64103024. So that's at menti.com. You'll just go and enter that code right there, 64103024. Okay, and I'll wait. We'll wait just a little bit, and then Sarah, you're going to put the Menti on the screen, I believe. Yes. All right. So you're already taking a look at it. So yeah, just to pull your energy level, and we're not going to save the results for this. So it's just you know, you can be as honest or as candid as you want. So it's good that we have people who are on the higher end of the scale. Good to see that that's winning out. So just, you know, what's your energy level today? Using that 1 to 7 scale, are you in need of a charge, or are you raging across the sky like a lightning bolt? So, you know, it's nice to see that we have at least 5 people. Outnumbering the lightning bolts, outnumbering the empty batteries. Oh no! So all right, so we tied with the lightning bolts and the empty batteries, but nice to see people on the top half of that scale. And then I think we can go to the next. Yeah, so have you already heard of us? Have you heard of FAIR Impact? Do you already work in the project? Yeah, that's okay. That's good that I'm talking to people who are probably familiar with our names. But yeah, also good to see some new faces, some who are brand new. Seeing people, yeah, who might be learning quite a lot today, we hope, especially through the breakout sessions. So I'll let everybody chime in there just for a moment. And yeah, so a lot of people who are here, they've heard of us, but they're not too familiar with us yet, and we hope to change that in the next couple hours. So if we can go ahead and move on, I think, to the next slide. So would you rather time travel back to the past or to the future? Now, and the caveat to this, we're not, you know, overloading you with butterfly effects or grandfather paradoxes. There are no consequences to traveling to the past. So if you really would like to travel to the past, be our guest. Or if you want to see where Fair Impact and EOSC take us, then you will go to the future. Yes. All right. So the future is winning out on that. Some optimists in the room. And yeah, so yeah, we are always curious with feedback. If you want to follow up on this question with your reasoning of why you would want to go to the past or the future, we'd love to hear about it, actually. So and you can use our contact form on the website. I'm sure we at the PCO would not mind hearing all of your thoughts on time travel. And yeah, I think we can go to the next slide. So this is our final question. This is our serious question, and this is open. You can type whatever you want. Be careful, it does appear on the screen to 114 participants. So do you have any suggestions to increase the impact of the project? So to be the impact in our fair impact, do you have suggestions? You know, for those of you who might not be too familiar with the project yet, you can take a shot in the dark and you know, make any suggestion you like. Or those who are more familiar with the project, maybe you have this this burning idea in your back pocket and you want to bring that out. So yeah, so more focus, so publicity, more focus on researchers, continued opportunities for grantees to collaborate. These are all excellent. So podcasts, that's an interesting one. I think we can fit that into our communications package. So more face-to-face events, we would of course love that. We would love for this event itself to have been face-to-face. Yeah, and perhaps keep an eye on the website and on us for you know, this is not the end by any means, and perhaps the next iteration of this public event will be face-to-face. So just keep an eye on us. So yeah, you can see we will go through each of these results, I think, and it'll be handy in the recording itself on YouTube. So more hands-on trainings, more communications. So we want to reach out to university libraries outside of the group of project partners. So these are all excellent ideas, and we will take these into account. And we really appreciate all of you providing these, and there's too many to mention, but we greatly appreciate your feedback. So 46 responses, not too shabby for 115 participants, and more keep coming in. So yeah, these are excellent, I think, and I think I can yeah, go ahead. We can keep this up for just a little bit longer and then hand this off. I think back to Vaso, who will be yeah, handing it off, and we'll continue with the program. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Daniel, and thank you everyone for the participation. I still wonder who were those who would like to go to the past and those that look into the future, and I'm sure it's not an age thing. So our next part, it's a panel session prepared with the help of our advisory board and the EOSC Fair champions. The session will be moderated by our advisory board member, Eva Mendes, and we have as special guests some of our EOSC Fair champions. You see them in the wider circles on the screen. These are Fotis Mistakopoulos, Richard Dennis, Armin Straube, Geta Mitrea, and Javier de la Cueva. I hope I pronounced all the names in an appropriate way, and I'll hand over to Eva.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to have the opportunity to you today and to moderate this, what they told me to do, a provocative discussion with the wonderful fair champions that I know only some of them, but I want to know them better today. And I think their input and their representation is crucial for impact. And it's very interesting to have different people with different nationalities, with different backgrounds, and also with different perceptions. So, you know, that I have to just set up this panel, and I want to introduce or to provoke the discussion with you guys today, just having the reflection, because in the slides in the Mentimeter, you have this question that it was, would you prefer to travel to the past or to travel to the future? And I was joking in the chat that this is a question of age. When you are over 40, you prefer to go to the future. When you are, when you're under 40, you go to the future. When you are over 40, you prefer to go to the past. So since I'm over 40, but there is a hope still, I will try to get you back to the past. And well, you all know that FAIR principles were launched in the Loret's workshop, these very special workshops that happen sometimes in the Netherlands. In this case, in 2014, then it was a discussion over the Force 11 conference. And then finally, they were published as findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable in March 2016 in a Journal of Scientific Data paper. So this is what you have, this is what we get, this is what we are working with, which is the FAIR principles. And I always say that FAIR is the best acronym ever after LASER, that nobody will know in the future what FAIR stands for, but everything will be fair in the scholarly communication. But it is a perfect acronym with a very difficult performance in terms of political issues, technical issues, and also it's what I said all the time, is engaging 80% of metadata, 20% of PIDs, a lot of policy, and we can negotiate the percentage. But this is the status that we have. This is what FAIR Impact embrace, is what FAIR applicants with FAIR practitioners do. But now, for a minute, go back to the past. Imagine that you have the magic wand or you have the time machine. And we can go back to the 90s, or I will not even go to the 90s, because in the 90s we were engaged on creating digital libraries on European, and nobody talk about EOSC or FAIR data. Just think about that we have the opportunity to go the early 2000, in the beginning of the 21st century, and the whole FAIR process is not conceived yet. Where would you start from? What is the more important thing that you will put on the table to establish the FAIR principles? Trying to forget what is already established or underline something that is already established. For example, Fotis, what would be the most important element or the most important approach to conceive the FAIR principles from scratch?
Thank you, Eva, for this excellent summary and introduction. My background, just to give a little bit of context for my answer, is I have a degree and a master's in librarianship and information science. So I've always been sitting between those people who provide the systems and those who use the systems. So I've always been in this position where I had to translate the value of a system to researchers. Usually, it usually was a discovery tool, like a catalog, a library catalog. So I'm very familiar about the importance of metadata. However, and this is where I want to focus on, is the people element. I think in whatever process we want to introduce, training, communication, and collaboration with different people from different departments is crucial, because unless they know, because especially, for example, in a university setting, different teams work together from different departments, so they borrow systems. There is a collaboration going on. So, but the innovation starts somewhere, and it leads and it's borrowed or used by someone else at the end. And I think that's always been the struggle for me when it comes to speaking about FAIR principles. As I've said in previous conversations, I think some of the principles in FAIR, like findable or accessible or usable, are easier to understand, but I've always struggled with how to explain interoperability. And sometimes maybe it's my fault, but sometimes it's that the topic is tricky indeed. And to prioritize that in the minds of researchers, it's not always easy. So some of the things I would focus on, if I had to go back to the 90s or the early 2000s, would be the harder topics like interoperability and how to best communicate these topics to researchers through training and communication events.
Okay, thank you very much for this. It's a very librarian perspective, taking care of the users. That makes sense. And also the way that you need to explain what are the technical issues, which is a very FAIR is a happy acronym with a very technical implication. So to have the right people in the context is fantastic. Now I will just give the floor to Richard to have probably a different perspective. Richard?
Yeah, hi, how are you? I guess my response to the question would be something quite similar to what Fortis said. My background too is in library information science, but I also, not only do I approach it from the librarian perspective, the end user perspective, I also approach it from the technical perspective. And I've been a librarian for quite some time. Certainly started my career in the middle part of the 90s. So I'm quite familiar with the advent of the internet and the World Wide Web. So I would most likely approach this particular question by starting out on the technical side as opposed to the end user side. So I would start out by focusing our energy on standardization of metadata and cataloging, and that would address the findable and the accessible element to the FAIR. One of the things that I find quite challenging in my role is not only explaining what FAIR is, but also having an infrastructure in place so that researchers can actually perform and also become fair with their digital objects. And I also would if I had a chance to go back to the 1990s, start to lay the groundwork for developing some sort of an interdisciplinary data format. And this would actually be quite favorable and necessary to create the interoperability, which is one of the more difficult things when dealing with FAIR, is the inability to create the interoperability for data sets. And the last piece which I can go on for quite some time is to encourage documentation and reproducibility. That actually to create some sort of comprehensive document to advocate through documentation of data sets, including the methodology, tools used, and context. This primarily can be achieved through by having workshops and seminars and collaborations. One of the things that took place in the 1990s is the advent of journals and how the journals laid a very, very strong structure, which we now see and exists today. This is what I would primarily focus on if I had the opportunity to go back to the 1990s.
Well, if it didn't happen in the past, we can just put a standardization in the future. That's why we are trying to agree upon metadata standards for different areas, interoperability. That's a very good point. Now I will just want to listen Armin from Limerick University that he probably have another perspective or similar. Go ahead.
So yeah, I noticed that I couldn't agree more with the other champions who already spoken, and I also work in a library, although I'm a trained archivist, so maybe there's a little difference there. Thinking about going back to the 1990s, I find it always fascinating and tell that in all my trainings, how the internet at CERN was basically, or at that strand of development was basically used to connect computers in a research center to make research data accessible, so that the whole internet is basically full of research data, and we can use this to further the knowledge of humankind and so on. Research data is, of course, nothing new, but in digital and making it available in that interconnected way, turbocharges something and puts it on a totally different level, but in different aspects. So, for example, research integrity, always an integral part of the research process, it doesn't do a different quality to it, but it turbocharges, makes it easier, and so on. Also, that aspect of if I share it, I get credit for it, I increase my impact. It turbocharges it, but it doesn't put it on a different qualitative level. Where the different qualitative level lies. So these two aspects are very, very important, and we can have webinars and projects just about these aspects. But the different quality is in the reuse, in the connecting different data sets to each other in a qualitative new way. And that allows us to really delve into, ask new questions and so on. So, and we can do that in two ways. We could just dump everything on the internet and then rely on kind of big data analysis, machine learning to find something in it. And this is done and should be done and so on. However, the other way, and this is what for me FAIR is all about, and especially that interoperability is all about, to make meaningful connections between data sets. And that has proven to be a very, very difficult thing. So I think if we time travel back to the 90s, people would probably not believe how difficult it is. And that 30 years later, we are still thinking in some disciplines, we are at the very, very early stages of finding meaningful ways of making things interoperable. But I think it's a very worthwhile endeavor. And then we can combine it with the machine learning and so on to really put the scientific process onto a qualitatively totally new level. Thank you.
Sorry that I was mute. Sorry, I was mute. Thank you very much, Armin. That's very visionary for the 90s, because I don't think that many people talk about machine learning in the 90s, but it was already a lot of development in artificial intelligence. So let's move on now to what's next in my list. I want to hear first, before Javier, Geta from University Stefan Sermarin from Sukiva, I think. What is your point of view if you go to the past? What do you think we need to put in the FAIR principles, in the FAIR conception?
Hello. Thank you very much, Eva. I have to agree with my colleagues. All that they said before, I totally agree with them. But I'm a sociologist. My basic and my specialization is on sociology and regional development and the social worker. I'm a double specialization at Stefan cel Mare University. From my current research is on open access as a sociologist. I believe that also now and also in 19th time, okay, everything is fine. Connection, communication, engagement, partnership. But also now, and I believe that in the past, the researchers, the students, the academia, all needed more time, availability to engage more and to procure more information for them to make sure that their contribution is viable for the present, for the past, now speaking, and now present and our future. This is my point of view. Thank you.
Oh yes, sorry that I only have one screen and I didn't know if I was mute. And now, last but not least, Javier, that he has a different background, not just only librarian or social science. Javier is also an expert in law, and I'm sure that you will bring us something related with reusability or something like that, or how will you conceive, or which will put you in the principles if you could have the magic wand to do it today.
Thank you, Eva. Nice to see you here. And excuse me if I'm going to stop my video because I've got a very unstable connection to go on try to
I can't hear you, Javier. I don't know if it is just my problem. Nobody?
No, we have a problem with Javier's sound, I'm afraid.
Is him still in the call, or
He's back.
yes?
Back
Yes,
again.
go ahead.
Yeah, I've got
You for a minute. Yeah.
I've got very unstable. Yeah, well, the good thing about speaking the last one is that I have very little to say about what has been said before. So they are, we could say, the giants that demonstrate that we always, when we make science, what we're doing is we're putting it over the shoulders of. I would like to recall here the Budapest, which had the legal points that I would like to bring here, and it's a matter of being able to reuse the material you have. In that sense, pointed into the two main reasons of.
Unfortunately, I think we are not getting all what you are saying. The last thing I got, it was the Budapest and the legal aspects of the open science, open access, or something like that. I don't know if you can bring your point in the chat, or I can, and we can read it. It's a pity, Javier, because I know that you will bring something very interesting.
He's contributing to the chat, so that's good.
It is now in the call anymore.
I think he's trying to write. He's trying to write in the
Okay.
chat because yeah.
Fair internet connection. That's a good thing. Yeah, because if he points out some interesting keywords in the chat, that would be interesting. Okay. Okay, Javier, I think that is, given the technical problems, you have been very categorical. And I think this is getting new technology, but a bad legal framework. Probably this is a very important thing, that if we come up with the new conception of principles, that would be something to consider, because even when we talk about reusability is about legal conditions. It's more about licensing than about other technical reuse practices that it will be probably affordable. I think this is a great point of discussion. I don't know if you will recover a bit of, we have just a few more minutes for discussing all these points. I don't know if you can elaborate a bit more. What do you envision for the FAIR principles in a more stable, or a more, I will say, advanced legal framework? Because if we try to create reusability principle on behalf of the all property, intellectual property rights in the old licensing approaches is very difficult, and also we bump into different legislation. So if I may say also what I will say then about the FAIR principles, I was taking notes on what you have been saying, and I have a new acronym for you guys, which is more happy than fair. We will need to create new principles. I think we all agree, or you all agree, that fair is fine. We talk about interoperability a lot. We talk about accessibility. And also I put these 3 R's because I remember when I gave one of the keynotes of the EOSC launch in 2018, I put all these R's and I say, it's not that I'm sleeping in the R, it's that I need more R's. It's not only about reusability, we need also reproducibility, which is something that you have mentioned in your little speeches. And also we need reusability, reproducibility, and reliability. That even if we are back to the 90s, we don't even imagine the big and quick development of artificial intelligence in the context of thinking about synthetic data, thinking about the reuse of data, thinking about all these kind of things that could happen in the context of the artificial intelligence, we have to think about also to the reliability of the data and if it is worth it to reuse them. And also I take the I, this fairy, another I, from the point of the not interoperability, but also the integrity, which is very much related with the reliability, integrity of the data, and many other discussion topics. And also put the L at the end. First is the S, that is for the standardization, that is more, we will probably define better FAIR principles, not only based on the metadata that they are conceived as standards, but they probably are not as standards. I'm always said that metadata are like the toothbrushes, that people think that they are a good idea, but everybody wants to use their own. Probably starting from a standardized point of view, that would be easier to establish metadata value in the FAIR principles. And also the final L is from legal, which is just what I can translate the concern of Javier. How can we establish the legal principles or the legal framework for the fairness of the research data management? And also, since we are playing with this hypothetical magic wand, I will say just FAIR principles, not only for FAIR data, but FAIR principles for the whole open science ecosystem, that you haven't seen people reproducing FAIR principles in software, reproducing FAIR principles in research outcomes, other research outcomes, publications, FAIR principles in open educational resources. So we will just probably be more ambitious if we have to establish the principles again and establish the FAIR principles for all other research outcomes. So do you think I'm missing any other acronym? Can we play with a better acronym for the past or for the future, or just to come over the discussion, even if we can embrace the happy acronym, which is FAIR, and add not so happy topics and also happy issues that you are bringing here today? Any other thing that we should put in the acronym?
I think it's complete.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you covered all aspects. I would say that it'd be a fairly substantially long acronym, but I think you've covered all bases. But in retrospect, I think that the folks who gathered in 2016 was fairly substantial in creating the FAIR, and the reusability aspect covers quite a bit of what you have said. It's just that the technology has evolved over the period of time since 2016 to include other digital objects, like, for instance, software in educational resources. But it's fairly comprehensive, the statement that you made.
Any other from the attendance that they want to bring something together that we are missing? There is a very interesting question from Dani Garijo. Hello. I don't know if Javier has recovered a bit of his sound, but I told you that you should talk to him about this, because having the clear and accessible data usage license, doesn't mean that you are addressing all the legal framework. You are just declaring the license, but you are not solving the problems. So what I think that Javier was trying to tell us or bring on the table is that declaring the license doesn't mean that the license is correct, or the license will guarantee the reusability of the data or the outcome. I will just say in general. So that's a very interesting question.
And also, may I say that I think when it comes to research efforts that are collaborative, we have private sector with the public sector working together, and not everyone operates under the same legal principles. And I think that's what Javier was trying to say, that the new technology doesn't solve, brings more issues in terms of how we think about copyright, because copyright has been thought in very traditional ways beforehand, but now with the internet, the advent of internet and the new possibilities, we need to think of new rules and copyright principles to address, and then we can embed them into FAIR principles, with the way that we do now. But yeah, it's a very complex topic.
Yeah, I think the reusability is absolutely based on a very poor legal definition of the usage, and the usage doesn't guarantee the reusability. So the people, Javier, you have a lot of fans in the chat, so I will just let you to elaborate a bit more, or you can perhaps point them out to the report that we made for the Commission about this discussion about open science and legal issues that I think is always on the table, because the legal approach is always later than the technology approach. So that's a big topic. Any other question or any other? I don't see any particular question.
We have 3 more minutes.
So,
right.
Yeah, probably we can just wrap up. And I think it was a very nice exercise. So we cannot come back to the past. We cannot go straight away to the future either, but the future is waiting for us. So let's make the present to a better future. Thank you very much for playing with me this game of the time machine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eva, and thank you very much to our EOSC FAIR champions and to everyone who contributed in the chat. We are moving on to the next part of today's discussion, the first support actions cohort, and I would like to hand over to Joy Davidson.
Yeah, thanks very much, Basso. And hello, everyone. My name is Joy Davidson. I'm Associate Director of the DCC, and I lead Work Package 2, which is all about the support provision. So as Ingrid mentioned during her introduction, FAIR Impact has 3 distinct routes of support provision. And I will put the link in the chat in just a minute so that you can follow that up if you want to learn more. We are trying to reach a number of different stakeholders, as Ingrid also made clear, and we hope that with our 3 different routes of support, we have something for everyone. What we'll focus on today is trying to give you a little bit of sharing the experiences of some of the successful applicants who applied to join our first Route 2 support actions, which took place from September to November 2023. And during this time, people were working on one of 2 support actions. The first was a fairness assessment challenge. And in this particular action, people tried different fairness assessment tools, including Fuji, FOOPS, and OFAIR, to assess the fairness of data sets or semantic artifacts. So the support action bought out a little bit of their time to allow them to get some hands-on time to play with the tools, and they got a bit of support from some of the tool providers. The second support action was to implement FAIR signposting and RO Crate to facilitate content discovery. And what this panel session will do is just to help give you a sense of what people got out of their participation, and hopefully to inspire people to maybe apply to join one of our upcoming open calls. If we can move on to the next slide, please. Thanks very much. So what I will do now is I just wanted to introduce our panelists for today's session. So maybe as I say your name, you can turn on your camera and wave and let people see you. For our panelists, for the Fairness Assessment Challenge, we have Magdalena Zluvita-Zawarska, who is head of Open Science Competence Center at Gdansk University of Technology. We have Bora Lushaj, research data steward at Erasmus University Rotterdam. We have Agneta Goos, who is assistant professor at the Danish Center for Environmental Assessment at Aalborg University. And we have Dagmar Walsemath, who is professor of medical informatics for the University of Medicine, Greifswald. And finally, for the Fairness Assessment Challenge, we have Alsu Shakir-Zianova, who is a backend developer at Datrix. Representing the Fair Signposting Support Action, we have Chokri Ben Romtain, sorry about that. He is head of the Tunisian Database Department at CNUDST, which is the Ministry of Higher Education in Tunisia. And we have Djurti Blomen, who is product manager at Libus at KU Leuven. So if we could have you all just turn on your cameras and be ready. I will move on to our first question for the panel. And what we're really wanting to get from you is, what did you get out of your participation? Did you benefit from taking part? And if so, can you give us a little bit of a flavor as to how you benefited? So I think for the first response, we'll go to Agneta.
Hi, Joy. Really nice to join everyone in this panel. So yeah, I was in the Fairness Assessment Challenge, and to be honest, before I did this challenge, I mean, as a researcher applying FAIR, I mean, I didn't really have a concrete idea on how to apply it. You just know that, okay, you make sure you give a persistent identifier or have a license, and you have a basic idea of how fair it could be. But then we were introduced to a lot of these tools that actually help us to benchmark our current practice and hopefully improve. Again, these tools are not, they give you like a metric, which I would say is not to be taken on face value. You can always improve on that, but it gives you sort of a direction on how well are you doing. So that was really informative. And one thing I would like to add was, after the challenge, I have also been looking at, because I think, researchers, we always have wanted to make our research fair, right? We always want our research to be findable and accessible, and to the best of our knowledge, interoperable and reusable. So I was looking at the status quo of how data is shared, or what are the standards around data sharing in my research domain. And that was very interesting to see, like, what are these, what is the current practice, and benchmark the current practice, benchmark the current technological infrastructure we have, and kind of with the help of listening into other domains, it was like, where could we potentially go from there? So from my side, that was really like the most important part of the Fair Impact Challenge.
That's great. Thanks very much, Agneta. And I'm glad that you took away that the metric itself, the score you get isn't the best result. It's about really thinking about how can you improve. That was a key takeaway we were hoping would come across. So that's great. I think now we can maybe move on to Dagmar, if you'd like to say a few words.
Thank you. And hello, everyone. I'm from a university clinic in Germany, and we applied for this Fair Impact project because we wanted to evaluate the German core data set that we have been developing on a national scale. So it's a data set that is shared among all the German university clinics to exchange clinical routine data for research. It's as I said, a national project, and we somehow felt that the data set was not defined in the perfectly fair way, and we wanted a structured analysis. So with this grant, we were able to do a fairness assessment, a professional one, that was mentored. We learned about different tools that we hadn't known before. And it was really helpful to develop a verification plan. So out of the project, we left with a concrete plan how to verify that data set. And this plan will actually be implemented. We have a national working group for interoperability of health data. And we even got a slot in this regular meeting where we continuously improve the fairness of the core data set. So for us, this was really helpful to make the research data more findable. I think it's mostly about findability for scientists in Germany. And we even went beyond that and applied the fair assessment that we learned about to another data set that is more in the public health domain, in the NFDI for Health project, which is also on the national scale. So I would say we gained a lot of visibility for the FAIR principles. We made people aware why this is important and how it can actually benefit research. So a very nice and successful little project for us. So thanks again for having us.
Oh, thanks very much, Dagmar. And I think it's really great to hear that the work is continuing. You know, it's taking part in a short support action is just the starting point, and it's great to see that the action plans are going on beyond the life. So thank you very much. The next person we're going to have speaking is Alsu, if you would like to say a few words.
Hello. Hello, I'm also from Datrix, a tech company group from Milan. We participated in the Fairness Assessment Challenge, and the support action increased a lot data knowledge in our team because we started with a very limited understanding, and we were interested in the initiative because of one Horizon project we're currently working on, CS Aware Next, which is dealing with cybersecurity. And so we are collecting and processing a large number of data sets, mainly system logs and threat intelligence, social media data. And we are in the process of developing a data catalog. And so the training helped us understand what we could better in our metadata practices and what to add to our data sets. And I would say it was the first point. And the second one is that it's very difficult to achieve open data in the field of cybersecurity, understandably, due to the sensitive nature of the information, but it's necessary, it's a hot topic. So we're hoping to release some relevant data sets as open data with the necessary approvals, and meeting the FAIR principle will be very useful, obviously, in doing that. So thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. It was great to have somebody kind of outside of the academia taking part. It's always great to get some SME involvement. And, you know, I think for us, it was also quite important to try and get people who might be just starting their FAIR enabling journeys, as well as some who are more advanced. So we were really trying to get a good mix. So it's great to hear that you found it useful. So thank you very much. The last speaker we have for this question is Chokri. I think if you want to say a few words about your experience.
Yes, thank you, Joyce. So, my name is Chokri Beromban from Tunis. We are based in Tunis, in Tunisia, and we have participated to the crime, posting and bureaucrat action. This participation was very beneficial for us since we have succeeded to implement the crime posting specification in our project. And it was also beneficial for our partners in the Resilient project, since our participation at this action give us the opportunity to deeply test and review the proposed implementation of signposting and bureaucrat specification. This gives us the opportunity also suggest some updates to improve the implementation, and we are continuing the implementation and the reviewing of this implementation within the new RDN in order to make them in order to integrate them in the new RDN and future ready of the engineering. Yeah. Thank you. That's all from my side.
Great, thanks very much, Chokri. And again, it's great to hear that, the participation with the starting point and that lots of work is continuing. So that's fantastic to hear. So it sounds like, we're very happy to hear that people have had a positive experience and that they found it useful to take part. The second question we have is to try and find out actually, and we heard a little bit from some of the first set of speakers, what will you take forward into your daily working practices as a result of taking part in the support action? So for this question, maybe you can go to Magdalena and hear what you've taken forward.
Thanks, Joy. Hello, everybody. I'm Magdalena. I'm from Gdańsk University of Technology Library. So me and my team, we took part in the Fairness Assessment Challenge. So I'm very, very happy about that. And first of all, what we took for our day-to-day practice. So according to excellent, I really would like to highlight it, what excellent feedback we received from our trainers. We could implement it some technical issues and improve our metrics in Fuji tool from 60 something percent to almost 90% in some cases, and in some data sets. And this job is still undergoing because we have some of the list with the issue to implement. So some changes and they are still pending. But the second, and it's my like a personal most effective example I would like to share with you today, is that I started to using a Fuji tool during my training with a first year PhD students. So this training I provide from a few years, and that time I would like to press this button and move to the past when I didn't knew the Fuji. So this is the first year PhD students, and the training is on open science, but the model of open research data is also very important. And usually I introduce them the FAIR principles in the theoretical way. However, when I met Fuji and when I started to use it, I could move my training to the next level. So after the theory, now I have more practice, more practical training. And we are able to assess data sets which are already in our repository, the Bridge of Data repository. However, we also use referee data to identify some disciplinary repository. And also we took some examples and data sets from Zenodo. And introducing Fuji to PhD students, it's really easy because it's very intuitive tool. It's very quick, so it's also very important, and also it's beautiful. So students get results in really clear and beautiful way. So thank you again for taking
Thank you. And I think it's great to hear that you cascaded the lessons you've learned. That was something we were hoping would happen with the support programs. So it's great that you're taking what you've learned and passing that along. So fantastic. I know on the support providers side as well, the tool support providers have taken your feedback on and have started to implement changes in both Fuji and some of the other tools. So it's been a two-way street in terms of benefit. So thank you very much. We also have Bora. If you wanted to say a few words about that question, that'd be great.
Hello. Hello everyone. I'm a research data steward at Erasmus University. And what I would like to share is the impact that participating in the Fairness Assessment Challenge had in terms of actually it's quite the large impact, in the sense that we translated the need for fair enabling repositories to our supervisors, and therefore have sort of changed their minds to changing the current repository that we're using, which, I mean, I don't want to take all the, we don't want to take all the credit. It has been in the works, but there was no real foundation or technical reason for making these changes. It's pretty big change. But then we were able to see that the metadata options of our current repositories do not allow us all the freedom that we need to enable fair data for our research. And that was sort of the what's the idiom for this? The needle that pushed the whole thing forward. So that is wonderful to see. And because of the, and I also want to mention that when we participated in this action, we were already familiar with the tools, and we were already working with Fuji, but we're not very familiar with the other tools to assess fairness. And by using another tool that wasn't necessarily technical, but it did have other criteria and a way to stack those criteria in terms of what is necessary for fair and what is maybe desirable and what is luxury, then we were able to also hone in, okay, so what are the criteria for our next repository? So we can use these. And that flexible understanding of fair really made a difference in persuading our colleagues. And we're moving forward with support from Fair Impact on another journey as an RPO with the involvement of a lot more stakeholders within our university. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. It's really great to hear that you've had such a big change coming as a result of participation. So that's wonderful. And I think, again, part of this support action was trying to introduce different tools and help people to understand why you might get different results from different tools and what they're assessing. So it's great that you've taken those lessons and applied it to your daily working place. So thank you so much. We're coming to the end of our time now. So what I wanted to move on to now is one last question. And this is just a question for, I think we have a volunteer from Dorothy who's going to respond to this one. And it's just to ask, what advice would you give anyone who's considering applying to any of the upcoming open calls for Route 2 support, if there's any advice you might give them? So maybe over to you, Dorothy.
Yeah, so I'm Diewertje from the KU Leuven team from Belgium, and we worked on our Crate integration for the Dataverse software as part of the second support action. And my advice would be to be willing to continue to work on it after the project has ended, because the project has a relatively short time span, but you learn so much from it. And I think you come out of the project with just an eagerness to continue working on it. And it's really useful to actually do so. We'll also be continuing to work on our Crate integration with Dataverse. I think maybe a tip for beforehand is to read up on what is already in place for the software or the system that you'll be working in. So for us, it was a Dataverse software. The signposting was introduced there as part of the code right before the start of the project. So luckily we had read up on that before we started it. And yeah, I also had a small tip maybe, and that's more so in the preparations phase of the application and before starting on the project. Try to read up on some of the basics of the techniques that you'll be working with. So for the second support action, it was signposting in our Crate, because you're going to get access to these experts and you want to ask all the questions you may ever have. So knowing everything beforehand will make sure that you can sort of hit the ground running at the start of the project.
Thank you so much. I mean, I think definitely we see this as kind of seed money to help people to try and do something they might have been wanting to do anyway. And it just gives them, I think, as a few of you said, a legitimate reason to maybe spend some time looking at a particular tool. So thank you very much to all of the panelists. One thing I will say, it was just a flavor of the experiences that we've had within the project and the support action so far. We're currently working on publishing an implementation story with each of the participants in the support actions, and those will be available, and that will give you even more inspiration if you want to find out how people engage with each of these support actions. So thank you very much, and I think we can move on to the next slide, please. So what I just wanted to do now was to make you aware that we do have an upcoming open call for Route 2 support. We have a number of different support actions being developed. I won't go through them all, but there are some support actions relating to the compliance assessment tool being developed by the Fair Core for EOS project. We are doing a couple of support actions relating to the fairness of research software, which is something that we heard in the first panel discussion as being something that is crucially important. And we also will be looking at, again, another version of Fuji. So we have been working in the Fair Impact Project to develop a version of Fuji to assess the fairness of software. And that is something that people will be able to apply to try. The last two that we're working on are, one is tailored to a repository community, and it will be to test some guidelines that have come out of the Fair Impact Project around improving the trustworthiness of the service. And the last one is about using the Fair Sharing Registry as a way to improve the sharing and availability of research data policies, and with an eye to monitoring the landscape a little bit more easily. So very quick overview of some of the things we're working on. We will be having an open call support webinar where you can learn more about these different support actions. The call will open for applications at the end of this month, and we will be adding some information to the website. So please do check that link I shared earlier in the chat. We'll be getting some information up there towards the end of the month. And I think in that, I will just say thank you again to all of our panelists for joining today, and we can move on to the next session. So thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Joy, and thank you everyone for sharing your experiences with us. We will have now some short pitches per work package, the four core work packages that we have in Fair Impact. So you can be informed about the different breakout sessions that will be available after the coffee break. So I would like to invite one by one our representatives for a short pitch of maximum 2.5 minutes. Josephine, would you like to start?
Yes, please. Thank you. So this breakout session will provide you with insight into the work of persistent identifiers, which apparently, according to EVA, consists up to 20% of the FAIR principles. So that is quite a lot. You will hear about our recommendations to create the PID coordination mechanism for EOSC PID service providers, and also the reasoning why we think one is needed in the first place. We will also talk about a value proposition, including some commonly shared interests. This is also dedicated to mainly PID service providers. You will also learn about what different scientific communities and infrastructures are doing in promoting good PID practices through the work of the 8 prominent use case partners we have included in this work package and in this work. And lastly, you will be updated on the progress on working towards enabling EOS compliant PID policies, and also the support offered within this project on the uptake. And lastly, if time permits, I will also present some highlights so far of the project, and mainly through the engagement of different workshops that we have organized, also through some of the milestone reports that we have published so far. So if all of this sounds at all interesting to you, I would suggest that you join this breakout session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josephine. Our next pitch is linked to work package 4 and semantic artifact catalogs. I would like to invite Nicola Fiore and Daniel Carillo to make an introduction on their breakout.
Yes, good afternoon to all. In our breakout session, we will present our work that has been done about the semantic artifact catalogs. Why the semantic artifact catalogs are important for us? It's really evident because also for the before discussions, we are with the semantic artifact, it's possible to support all the activities related to the discoverability and the integration of data. This is really important in all the domains to address the today's challenges. For this, we will introduce our different experience in cataloging semantic artifact done in different domain. In Life-OCERIC, for example, for the ecological domain, in AgroPortal, the AgroPortal experience for the agronomic part domain. And also we will introduce another product that was born from the same technology, that is the OntoPortal Alliance technology, that is the Heart Portal. That is a catalog that has been a repository dedicated to the art science. All these catalogs come from the OntoPortal Alliance family, so are based on the same technologies. We will show how it's possible to browse or to publish the semantic artifact resources, also highlighting how it's possible to obtain the OI, or how we are measuring the fairness of our resources. The breakout session also will include other cataloging experience, for example, as the linked open vocabulary repository. For this, I don't know if Daniel would like to add something now, or we will directly pass to the breakout session.
Well, in the interest of time and to intrigue people, I will introduce this approach in the breakout session.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, both, and thank you for being mindful of the time. I would like to hand over to Mike Pretty for the third breakout session on fair metrics and assessment of data and software. Mike.
Okay, so this session will be a simple breakout session, but you will have to do some work. So if you're not interested in doing much work, maybe it's not for you, but what we will be doing is leading via a Mentimeter type set of questions to develop discussion on fair assessment metrics and tools. What works well? What are the challenges? Where is there confusion? What is difficult? What is missing? So if you're using digital objects across a range of different types of objects from other researchers, or creating digital objects, or working in a repository where you're using a lot of digital objects and you want to find out a bit more about the fair assessment tools that are out there and how you might be able to do something a little bit different or change the way you're working, or you've just got some confusion about it, this may be the session for you.
Thank you very much, Mike. And last but not least, Anne-Sophie Fink, with the fourth breakout session on interoperability from legal, organizational, semantic, and technical perspective. Anne-Sophie?
Yeah, thank you, Vasu. For our breakout session from EP6 on interoperability, we'll start as all the other. You can say what packages in Fair Impact is that we want to support fairness of data and other research output. Our sort of what we set spotlight on is on interoperability, and that is technical interoperability, semantical, organizational, and legal interoperability. And at least to our point of view, often these different interoperability frameworks are not sort of looked upon across, but separately. And we are looking on all four. They are, as you probably all know, anchored in the ESG interoperability framework, which you probably are familiar with. To add to this framework, we will tackle, you can say, these different kind of interoperability from several directions. And today, and in order to engage you in our work, we have set up a Q&A session with the task leads for VP6, and that is Esteban Gonzalez from Polytechnic University of Madrid, who are responsible for our task 6.1 on semantic and technical core interoperability across domains. And together with Esteban, we got Olivier Rousson from Centre National de Recherche Scientifique, who are task lead for two tasks, and that are on legal and organizational interoperability, and for interoperability within the EASC ecosystem, with a special focus on the EU data spaces. In the end, for VP6, we'll strive to deliver outcomes that will enhance interoperability on these different frameworks. We want to deliver guidelines, core metadata schemas, templates, and agreements for data interoperability. And indeed, we want to deliver cross-domain recommendations and feedback to the EASC interoperability framework. And for this, again, we'll invite you for a Q&A session with Esteban and Olivier, where they will take you into how we have worked with the different interoperability frameworks up till now, and how we will continue. And hopefully also you will have questions for our work, and indeed maybe something you would like us to take up for the future for this work on interoperability. And as you heard our champion mentioning interoperability several times, and indeed the challenges that comes with working with interoperability and indeed across domain. And I'm looking back in my notes, and especially I like the idea about interoperability is about connecting meaningful connections across data sets, and you could say all other research objects. So come to our session and hear about our work, and add your questions for Esteban and Olivier.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we are now ready to pick our breakout sessions and then go for a coffee break for 15 minutes, a little bit more than 15 minutes. And we will come back on at 3:35. You can see in the chat the different breakout room names for work package 4, persistent identifiers, work package 3, apologies, work package 4, semantic artifact catalogs, work package 5, fair metrics and assessment of data and software, and work package 6, interoperability. I'm asking my colleagues now, are the breakouts going to open already? You can see on the bottom of your page, it mentions breakout rooms, and you can join the rooms from there. It's on the bottom of your Zoom page. There are 3 dots that says more. Once you click it, it says breakout rooms, and then you can choose the different rooms and be there. And please come back at 3:35 for our breakout sessions. Thank you very much. I see smiley faces coming back from the breakout. I hope this is a good sign. Had some fun. Let's give it a second until everybody's back. And then I will hand over to Ingrid so we can discuss the takeaway messages from the breakout.
Thank you, Russell. I don't know whether everybody is back, but we seem to have quite a sizable group in the room. So yeah, and I think the cut was a little bit abrupt, as I can see in the chat. But yeah, we want also to stick to time. So to wait for all the breakout session discussions to be finished will probably not be the best approach. So I'm sorry for that. We have a couple of minutes left to hear a little bit about what was the content of the discussions in the different rooms. We're not going to get full reports. I don't think that that is a very attractive way to end this session. But I only have 2 questions for each of the leads in the breakout rooms. So maybe we can start with the first question and the first breakout room. And I think we have to look at Josephine for that. Josephine, can you give us an idea of what for you as an expert in the work that you're doing in the project was the most unexpected element in the discussions or the comments or the questions that you had in your session? Was there anything that you thought, oh, we haven't thought about that, or if that was an angle that we didn't consider yet? That would be nice to hear.
Yeah, definitely. There was one question immediately that I wasn't really sure how to answer. It was a really good one, actually, and I don't think we came to any conclusion in terms of how to answer that question. Really, it was how best to accredit infrastructures. So providing credits for infrastructures being used in research. And of course, we discussed that there is this ROR that identifies organizations, and it's a really straightforward, easy process to register with ROR. But if someone, outside of our breakout room knows of any good identifier system that would manage this, then I would like to hear that.
That was an interesting, indeed an interesting element. And you never know, maybe there's somebody in the room who has ideas about that. So this is your chance to put your thoughts in the chat. So thanks for that, Josephine. Maybe we can move over to Nicola. Was there anything unexpected in your session?
Yes, it was a very interactive session. The time at the end was not enough, but we captured different feedbacks from the audience as not really unexpected, but what's surprising, one question was related if we can discover which dataset are linked to the specific semantic artifact in our metadata catalogs. So the user go directly to the goals of the semantic artifact catalogs, and this aspect is an aspect that we need to go deep in order to show how useful our catalogs. And another question was related to the discoverability of the semantic artifact across catalogs. So how it's important to supply discovery services that go through our semantic, through the different semantic artifact catalog, also that go across the different domains. From this point of view, I think for the future, not only in the project, but also in general for the future step, it's important to develop this kind of service across to search across catalogs, but also to explore how also the artificial intelligence could be useful for this part.
Thank you, Nicola. Anything to add on that point, Daniel?
Not really. I think Nicola did a nice summary. We also got a couple of questions regarding the concept of registries and how to use them a little bit better, which is what I was trying to clarify before abruptly coming back here. But I think, yeah, so far the feedback was nice, and nothing else to add to what Nicola said about.
Good, thank you. Then the same question for Mike. Anything unexpected in your session?
I wouldn't have necessarily said it was totally unexpected, but it was good to see that there is some interest with the issues of looking at a dynamic database digital object and the challenges that trying to do fair assessment and using tools to assess dynamic data is obviously something that we are beginning to look at, but it's clearly something that is of interest. So this has been quite useful in that respect to know that those are things that are there. Micah, is there anything else that was interesting for you in that session?
Well, when we talk about unexpected and also talk from the fair impact bubble that the two of us are obviously in, right at the end, we asked how familiar the group was with the fair impact work on this topic. And that's not familiar enough. So we know there's more promotional work for us to do, to talk more, to share more about what we do, because there's very interesting conversations to have with people we have not yet been in contact with. So that's very interesting for us to learn.
That indeed is important to be aware of, and we still have some time to go to improve on that, that's for sure. Thank you, Maaike. And Sophie, in your session, anything that stood out in terms of unexpectedness?
Yes, I'll first of all I'll share, and maybe that's the bubble we are in, that we discovered that there's life outside EOSC. So that's for one we took home. On the more serious side, what we discovered, or maybe more talked about, is that that one thing is, for instance, legal and organizational interoperability, but actually how will you move from having legal legal and organizational interoperability to actually have technical support to implement this in a way that can be used to work on. Then, as you will know from us talking about interoperability, we have the interoperability EOSC interoperability framework as a kind of our Bible, but just reminding ourselves that maybe back then, actually, yeah, we were back then, there wasn't that much concern about data and software. It was very much only to do focus on data, at least as I recall, think of it. We talked about that schemas for legal and organizational interoperability. The existing schemas are almost often too simple to be used, and coming to technical and semantic interoperability for the use cases we know, sometimes they are very detailed and diverse and come a long way, and otherwise not so much. So a great difference there. I think I'm looking desperately through my notes. Yeah, we talked about that. There's this semantical interoperability profile put out by the Go Fair community, and we can use this and work together with sort of comparing semantical interoperability profiles across different projects. Maybe I can invite Esteban and Olivier also to comment on these unexpected things, if you'd like. Otherwise, we can move on.
That's perfect.
Okay. We'll leave it there for now.
Thank you, Sophie.
Yeah.
Then one final question, and some of you already alluded a little bit to that, I think, but was there one main takeaway that you will take from the session to your future work in the project? And again, Josephine, do you have anything to add on that point from the session?
Yeah, at least one really interesting point that was made around global inclusion and global accessibility of persistent identifiers, that there is clearly a need to go beyond the typical, communities that we collaborate with, also to reach the non-English speaking world. And here I mentioned that I know that DataCite has started this global access fund, as they have also sort of identified these types of needs and started to address them. So this was a really interesting insight and comment. But also another point was around emerging PIDs, when I mentioned that we are keen on looking into those. So what we have done so far and the insights that we've made. This is another topic that we would like to have feedback from the broader community as well. Mostly in defining what is an emerging PID. That is not very straightforward, that is work in progress, but also which of the PID systems currently out there that could be classified or categorized as a new emerging one. So this was an interesting discussion as well that really, we would like to collaborate more on or discuss some more around this topic.
Yes, and these are also, I think, good topics to bring to the RDA as a more global and
definitely
forum. Definitely, yeah. Thank you, Nicola or Daniel. Anything that you want to take further in future work that comes from your session? Anything else from the points that you already raised in the first round?
No, as I told before, for sure we need to work on the search across the domain. So I think this could be an important aspect for me.
And a big one, so
yeah,
stick to that
very
one.
ambitious.
Exactly. Thank you, Mike or Maaike. Anything for the future next to what you already mentioned around the outreach and the dynamic data sets?
Shall I start, Mike?
Go on then, you start.
So you taking a breath as well. I think the main thing I took away from it is that a lot of the tools are judged as being quite easy to use, quite good to use, but more difficult to understand. So there's a difference there, and the results are more difficult to understand, but also how to use them. So there's some work to be done on that front where we can hopefully improve that bit of user experience as well.
Yeah, that's valuable information to get back. Then finally, Anne-Sophie.
Yeah, also what I've been wondering, adding to what's already said, I think for these, for dimension, we are talking legal, organizational, symmetrical, and technical. I think there's an issue about sort of digging more into the details and going deeper and deeper and start a little bit, but there's some challenge in maybe sticking to the level where there's the similarities and then digging deeper, and maybe again coming to similarity when we actually go into more details in the different dimensions. I think there can be some cross-cutting, but it takes a while. And I think one of the also the insights for our session was that indeed we and that's maybe the format, we needed a bit more time in order sort of to really get into the matter. Last bit, and actually it was mentioned by you, Ingrid, that some of the challenges we see here is actually shared by also from the repository side when we talk about generic repositories compared with domain specific repositories, where of course you can have lots more detailed metadata and lots more structure and decide on standards in another way than when you're working generically. So that's something that we can learn from. So maybe, Olivier, Esteban still, and time is running here, but please add.
Yeah, for example, in my case, I think one of the challenges of the task force is just to combine all the information that the Fair Impact project are going to provide us with, other work packages, information from the task forces, and also from the ES interoperability framework. So for me, this is we can say that the main challenge of this task. Okay, but I think it's very nice. We will have to produce a very good results with the help and the support of the community.
Big mouthful.
Thank you very much. And I think when we hear this short summary, it shows that there is a lot of richness around, that we got a lot of feedback, which is very useful, and it helps us within the project to improve and to set our course for the second half of the project. So I'd like to thank everybody for your contributions in the breakouts, and I'd also like to thank again the organizers of these 4 sessions. And with that, I hand over to our chair, Vaso, to close the meeting.
Thank you. Also, I would like to thank everyone, all the people who worked in organizing, planning, creating the content, but also our EOSC Fair champions, our advisory board, the participants of the support, the first cohort that joined us in the panel session, and everybody who participated in the breakout sessions. Thank you very much. It was definitely very useful for us within the project, and we hope that it has been useful for you too, and that we keep in touch and continue this journey together. Thank you, and have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.